Hey, welcome to another edition of Road Noise with Hutch from the Hutch Money Minutes podcast. Today we're going to talk about Bitcoin, crypto, blockchain technology. It's all the rage right now after the election, and you're probably wondering how it fits in, or if and how it fits into a overall privatized banking strategy. Um, it does, but it is somewhat limited at this point. We'll get into that at the end. Let's start with what it is and what it's not. So a lot of people think that it is just some crazy casino out there, right? It's just madness. It has the aroma of tulips and that it's just completely in a bubble. It's just a ledger technology that people associate value to, and it only goes up because other people are assigning value. That's kind of the main argument against it. Like it doesn't have any intrinsic value. Okay, great. It's a technology. It's a Bitcoin, I'm talking, is a permanent, immutable ledger. It's decentralized. Like, you need a bunch of people with computing power to agree on these transactions. And then they're always there, and the history's always there. Nobody can take it away from you. Debanking is a thing. If you haven't heard of that, I strongly suggest you look at it. I saw Mark Anderson discussing it recently. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce CRM, and it is a very real thing. Perfect example of that is during COVID, when a lot of Canadian truckers were protesting, and so they were blocking the roads, and the draconian government up there wanted to stop them. What they did is they debanked the truckers. They found out, they went and found their license plates, and they froze their bank accounts to try and starve them out. And the fact that any government, any entity really could have that kind of power is actually quite scary. And that is the ethos or the argument for crypto. Beyond just being, hey, can I get a 10x? Can I get a 20x? I want to sell tulips to the next person who will hopefully buy them higher. Probably the decentralized antidote to debanking, to me, is probably the most valuable use case. And what happened is actually a lot of Bitcoiners actually went and gave people wallets. We won't get into the technology of how, so that they had enough Bitcoin to just go ahead and eat and continue their protests since they were being debanked. Which is pretty cool. This grassroots movement that could happen, and that could not be taken away from them. Great tweet I saw. It said, if you're condoning politicians you like to stop protesters you hate, what happens when protesters you hate get into office and politicians you hate get into office and can stop protesters you like? Which is a big deal. But going back to the argument that you hear against Bitcoin, saying that it only has value because somebody else says it has value, which is 100% true. And you can see with the growing adoption that is happening. I mean, the same thing could be said for NVIDIA stock, right? Like, it only has value. The value it has is because other people are realizing the long-term growth opportunity. In stocks, it's actually called TAM, TAM, or total addressable market. The fact of the matter is, the total addressable market with Bitcoin is the whole world, and there's only going to be 21 million in existence. So this scarcity effect, similar to gold, that they do call Bitcoin digital gold, if there's only so much gold and only so much of it can be mined, and that is actually set in the technology of Bitcoin, and people are adopting it and continue to adopt it, well, then, of course, the value should go up. But if you subscribe to this belief, I would challenge you to take that same argument and apply it to the US dollar. Like, the US dollar used to be the gold standard. Like, it used to be backed by something scarce called gold, and now it's not, right? Now we have federal banks and governments endorsing this practice of just printing money. The money printer goes burr. with the financial responsibility of a drunken wastrel with a bleeding heart. And it only has value. The paper, the little digital, whatever numbers you see on your phone or your laptop only has value insofar as other people say it has value. Now, not too long ago, before the election, BRICS nations were looking to get off the dollar standard because in their mind, it was losing value. And you could see it just with your own purchasing power. Like if you go to Costco, I found a great measure the other day. I like McDonald's breakfast. I don't like the sausage McMuffin. I like the classic egg McMuffin. But the sausage McMuffin ages ago was $2 for $3. It evolved to $2 for $4, obviously with inflation. Just in the last few years, it went from $2 for $4 to $2 for $6. I don't know about you, but to me, that is 50% inflation. Not the 6 or 7% or 3% or under 2 they're talking about. That is ridiculous. I digress. So Bitcoin as a store of value will probably continue to increase. Now, why did it increase so much after the election? Well, prior, we had a very anti-crypto regime in politics, largely led by Elizabeth Warren. They appointed Gary Gensler, who was kind of like a Trojan horse. People thought he was pro-crypto because he taught a course on Bitcoin at MIT ages ago, but it turns out he really wasn't, and he provided leadership through enforcement. So was not very, very clear about what the rules were and what the rules weren't for founders and startups. They would even go in and ask, and he wouldn't tell them, but then he would start enforcement actions, start suing people, founders, projects left and right, and it just created a lot of confusion. Now, I have a conspiracy theory that a lot of people call the SEC the Big Bank Protection Committee. And crypto has been around since early last decade. It actually started, ironically, like the first block happened in 2008 around the crash. It really got legs in the early, I think it was 2012, 2013. But there's been a lot of innovation. And traditional finance, our financial overlords, who in my mind, politics is just a puppet show. The financial overlords, they have owned money forever, all like before the Medici family, right? And they were falling behind. And there was actually a shortage of blockchain developers, blockchain auditors you need to create the technology. And because the ethos of crypto in general is kind of get away from the man, be your own bank, right? They didn't really want to work for big TradFi, traditional financial companies. And they were behind. And so they needed to kind of stunt the growth, if you will, to catch up. And lo and behold, look what's happening. BlackRock's all up in there. Fidelity's all up in there. There's word now that all the major banks are figuring out how to link up, which, by the way, this is not financial advice, but one of my projects that I like is a technology called Chainlink, which is supposed to unite like 11,000 different banking institutions. And they've been working in the background the whole time. And they were kind of poo-pooed, but now that not only are we seeing retail FOMO, fear of missing out, but institutional FOMO. Now everybody's asking, should I buy Bitcoin? Institutions are saying, should I get into crypto? And, now that things are taking off, if you think about it, for the last 2.5 years, since the last bear market started in May of 2022, TradFi had time to catch up. And with the bear market and devs and auditors needing work because a lot of projects blew up, exploded, imploded, whatever you want to call it, they needed work. And now you're seeing that TradFi had a chance to catch up and and get their claws into it. Now, I get concerned a little bit about Bitcoin because there's been manipulation in the precious metals market for ages. Again, by the financial overlords who have always controlled money, and they like their paper system. They like to be able to control things. And now that there's all this money in ETFs, they can move that market since they're possessing so much of the asset. They can choose to move the market as much or as little as they want, like they've done with physical metals for a long time. But the good news is we see adoption. So let's talk about the difference between Bitcoin, physical gold, physical gold, Bitcoin is digital gold, and physical silver and digital silver, because there's a great analogy. Mr. Wonderful from what do you call it? Shark Tank had a great saying. He said, Bitcoin will always be gold and Ethereum will always be silver. And I think that statement is, I think what he was talking about in terms of just value, who knows? We shall see. But it is a pure analogy in that for ages, gold does have some industrial applications, but because it's store of value, because it's so readily accepted as a store of value, it's not really worth it to use that metal for conductivity. But silver, on the other hand, has comparable, it may not be exact, comparable conductivity powers, if you will. But the value isn't as much. But they've always kind of moved together in tandem. Well, the same can be said with Bitcoin and Ethereum. And the key difference is, whereas Bitcoin is a store of value, it's a permanent, immutable ledger, right? It's decentralized. You can move as much as you want. You can move billions of dollars, whatever people accept it, by memorizing some words in your head or memorizing some code or whatever that looks like, as opposed to you can't even fill your pockets with that much and somebody can find and search you and take it away. That is the value of Bitcoin. However, Ethereum, as well as other next-gen smart contract projects, they have this industrial application in that Ethereum started the whole smart contract theory, meaning you could actually program a contract. And what's interesting is people made fun of NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which like that, we'll discuss that. But like an NFT for most people means like monkey pictures and what and whatever that were worth, tulip prices. But the NFTs, what they did is they proved the use case of smart contracts in Ethereum in that there's the biggest one is called OpenSea. It's an NFT marketplace, and somebody could put their monkey picture up on the site and without having to worry about people or people being honest, program a smart contract that said, if you give me X amount of Ethereum, I will give you my monkey picture. And these transactions are taking place all the time to where smart contract exists, monkey picture, a non-fungible token. Not fungible just means there's a readily accepted value. But still a token on the Ethereum network. It's still an asset. Think of it kind of like art or a collectible, but that's not the only use case for NFTs. But for this purposes, it is. I will put my monkey picture token in this contract, and I will put rules that says if you put X amount of Ethereum in here, then I get the X amount of Ethereum, and your wallet gets my monkey picture. So that smart contract exists. Now, there's been a lot of talk about like, okay, well, wait a second. If that can happen, what else could happen? One of the things that I thought of personally is like airline tickets. Pain in the butt, right? But what if airline tickets were an NFT, right? Like I have my wallet's always with me. I can do my fingerprint. I can do whatever. If I lose my phone, I have these words memorized and I can back it up onto another phone, but nobody else can figure it out. What if I bought the plane ticket and it just showed up as an NFT in my wallet? as opposed to going to this email and taking this screenshot and putting it here and blah, 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 blah. That's kind of annoying. I have Signal. I don't have Signal. Um, Another great discussion around use cases are with, excuse me, Hurricane Katrina. So Hurricane Katrina, lots of people's houses were destroyed. The title office was underwater. Now, if you think about it, most people's biggest asset is their house. Well, how do you know you even own the house? Like, possession is 9/10 of the law. You're in it. But what if your deed, instead of it being like, do you even know where your deed is to your house? It's in a recorder's office, and you have to do this thing, and you have to pay all these escrow companies and all this money. What if all that was automated via smart contract? Like when you bought the house, right, and all the things were satisfied, you actually had in your wallet an NFT for your house. Now, why it was valuable in Hurricane Katrina is because people weren't trying to sell their house, but they were trying to prove to insurance companies that, like, wait a second, this is my house. I do qualify for insurance. What if insurance policies were NFTs via smart contract? Instead, like, nobody could get to the deed recorder's office in New Orleans because it was underwater forever. So all these claims got delayed. Of course, insurance companies find a way to kind of delay things, and they had a perfectly legitimate reason why. It's like, well, we need to make sure that, like, that is your house and this is whatever. But like, if all of that was just on a permanent immutable blockchain technology, well, even if you lost everything in your house, but you had your phone, you memorized your words, you could back it up, you could start that, you could start the claim earlier. So anyway, you get the point. This technology is part of the next wave. Like, it's tied with AI. AI is just an accelerator for this technology, but there are real world use cases. I only have a couple minutes, so we'll probably do a part two. What I will tell you though is the crazy casino thing is real. It's going to be like 1998. We're probably in about 1998 right now, maybe 97, um, probably 98. In that, all these .com companies, there was this huge bubble. And let's face it, the internet was a massive thing. Like, most of us couldn't imagine it in 1999, much less even 2003, what is possible now. But the same can be said for blockchain technology. It is somewhat unregulated. There's a lot of scams going on. You have to be very, very, very careful, especially when you get into self-custody. All kinds of things. People could put malware on your computer, zap into your wallet, suck it out. And I realize people are just saying, hey, I'm going to stick with Fidelity, or I'm just going to keep it in this iBit and just have it in my Schwab account. And that's fine. That's where it starts. But the ethos of crypto, of Bitcoin, of blockchain technology is really to be your own bank, in that you can have assets that can't be taken away from you. And so I urge you to do some homework, research about how to do something called self-custody, how to self-custody your blockchain assets, as well as, if you're going to speculate, I'm not even going to say invest yet. If you're going to speculate in these projects, you have to realize that we're in like 1998. Like, this is another tech renaissance. We're seeing this with AI. AI is just really an accelerant, but the total addressable market of using blockchain for financial technology is massive. It's massive. It is the most antiquated system. Like, I do business with financial companies, TradFi, insurance companies. Our joke is, hey, X insurance company is a great company. They're going to be amazing as soon as they get electricity. But the same can be said for the stock market. Like, yes, you point and click buttons, but theoretically, what's happening is when you sell a stock, it takes 3 days for that to clear. 3 days. I could send millions of dollars of value right now. What's accepted as value, I don't have that much. I wish I did. of Bitcoin or Ethereum or any number of shit coins to anybody anywhere else in the world in a period of seconds, minutes, depending on which chain you're using and their capability of speed. If I put money in one bank and I want to transfer it to another bank, yes, there's Zelle and it has happened quickly. But if you look at what's actually happening, it takes days, 5 days for it to move over. Like sometimes I move it from here to here with Venmo, Zelle, and then I forget, I look at the account and I go to take it and they're like, oh, you're overdrawn. Like, dude, get it fixed. Clear that shit right now. Blockchain solves this. Bitcoin doesn't. Bitcoin doesn't solve that because it doesn't have smart technology. And there is something called Bitcoin maxis or Bitcoin maximalists that will argue with me and everybody else to say it's the only thing and that's the only thing you should own. And listen, I think it's great to have some exposure to Bitcoin. And maybe they can build a smart contract technology someday, but there's a lot of chains that are already ahead of it. So that brings me back to my point. There's going to be winners and losers. Short term, I think the tide rising, the new regime coming in is going to rise all ships. But a lot of this stuff is just going to go to zero, like in 2000 and beyond. But there will be the Amazons, there will be the eBays, there will be the AOLs that, well, I just gave AOL the finger, that rise like crazy, but then fall. And so you have to do your research carefully. Look for actual business, look for actual use cases, and only speculate with what you can afford to lose. I'll probably do another follow up to this because I did get really into this in the last bull market and picked up some good tips and tricks. Now, truth be told, I did lose money. I invested in the fastest growing project. It's called Luna. You can look it up. Probably do a whole separate podcast on that. That it was the fastest growing project, but also the fastest falling. It went to zero like that. I still believe that it was torpedoed by the financial overlords. We'll never know. We can look at the wallets and see who did it. It took billions of dollars, actually 3.2. And probably whoever was responsible for that didn't know it was going to take 3.2 because it had like a Bitcoin reserve and all this stuff. And so they probably had like 10 or 12 ready to go to make sure it went to zero because anyway, I digress. In order to pound it with shorts, you need a lot of firepower. But at any rate, I did learn a lot of things of how to research, what to look for, because it is such a new and young asset and it is kind of its own animal. It does have aspects of investing in stocks, but then we're in the future to a degree. And again, most projects are shit coins and they are going to go to zero. So even though for a while we're in a bull market and it won't be without volatility, it's like this, boom, boom, like it's crazy. Like I remember seeing a meme by a girl, talking about investing in cryptos, like a TikTok, and she's like, ma'am, you're in first class. She's like, yay. And then like the next thing shows her like falling out of the plane. And that's how it feels like. And so how it ties into banking is it's still a single use asset, meaning even though there are some ways to borrow against it and like not in the dark web, but you have to be really into this stuff to be able to borrow against it. It's still not advisable because the fluctuations are so high, you can get liquidated. So whatever you plan to put there, just think of it as like a set it and forget it and let it go and hope that the tide does rise these ships. I do talk about something called the hourglass method. I've never shared before, but it's just an approach to DCA. So if you find something that you believe in on the way down, you should exponentially increase your buys. So you're getting exponentially more shares for less money. But similarly, when it starts to go up, you should start to DCA out, meaning take some profits along the way. And the higher it gets, take more profits, especially if you're pushing the envelope and playing with money that you can't afford to lose, or you're using leverage from your other 4D banking mechanisms. And that's a mistake that I made where I moved money from a place of safety because it was something I believed in. And then when it went to zero, I still had to service that debt. And now the value of safe assets like my life insurance, borrowing against retirement plans, now all of a sudden, like I had lost that value, right? And I had to make it up through income. Anyway, hope this was helpful as a starter. let me know. Drop it in the comments. Shoot me an email. Let me know what questions you have, what you want to hear more about, and we will discuss. Talk to you then.